Hello and welcome to the TT Podcast. This is the podcast where we talk to one person from the world of the TT racers to discuss their lives, their journeys, their ambitions and their relationship with the greatest motorsporting event in the world. I'm Chris Pritchard and today I'm riding solo. For today's episode of the TT Podcast, we're joined by our very own Steve Plater. Since the launch of this podcast series, he's been here giving his racing insight and delving into the detail with our guest. But he's plenty to talk about himself, hopefully. A TT debut in 2007, a TT winner by 2008, and a senior winner by 2009. It would be very Hollywood to say he then walked away as reigning champ. But in reality, it was a broken neck that put stop to his road racing career. I don't know if you should laugh about that or not, Steve. Still, road racing's loss is broadcasting's gain, and since 2011, he's been guiding the TT viewers through the action as a pundit on the race highlights and now the TT Plus live coverage. Steve Plater, I feel like I've lost my wingman, but I've gained an amazing guest.
Morning, Matt.
Unbelievable. Hey, listeners, I don't know where this chat's going to go. I don't know how it's going to be, but hopefully we're going to get a lot of insight, right, Steve?
Mate, yeah, but before we start, I didn't get a lot to eat. Can I get a chicken sandwich, please?
Unbelievable.
I've heard you're the man.
No one's going to understand what that means now.
Hey,
but...
no, that was my little Lucci joke. No, it's good to be here, mate. It feels weird, you know, because we've done quite a lot of podcasts now, the daily ones that the TT and everything else, and I'm sat opposite having questions.
Mm-hmm.
So, no. I'm a little bit nervous about what you're going to ask me.
Well, unfortunately, I dug and dug, but didn't find anything to kind of hold your ransom to. So I think you're pretty safe, unless you throw yourself under the bus, which we hopefully will get to. Obviously, we start the TT podcast with the question, and we get to ask you the question this time. Can you remember that far back? Is it still in colour when you think about it?
During the war.
During the war, getting that tap on the shoulder.
No, what a feeling. You know,
Can you remember it?
Yeah, of course you can. You know, it wasn't that long ago, cheeky flippers.
All right, but it was long enough ago.
But no, it was. But because it's so different to any other aspect of racing, it's huge and it's something you never forget. But I wasn't one of those kind of riders or competitors that was too worried about what was going on around me, as in with the atmosphere and the nervousness of the team members, which is quite normal on a TT up on Glen Crutcher Road before the start of a race. I just wanted to get on with it, a little bit like a flipping gladiator to a certain degree, walking around and just wanted to get on with the thing. Now, for me, you know, we obviously speak and all the riders and racers are asked the same kind of questions, and I'm a little bit like Foggy. For me, it was nice to hear him say the same thing. I hated Bray Hill. So the only thing really that was on my mind was I was very nervous about going down Bray Hill with cold tyres and a full tank of gas and so on for the start of the race. So that pretty much was what was on your mind the most. But to go back to the question, tap on your shoulder, yeah, of course. As soon as you get that tap, the pressure's off to a certain degree. It's just you and your machine on the road. But there's so many things going through your mind. Obviously, you've got St Ninians at the top of the hill. You've got Bray Hill at the bottom. You've got Aggo's Leap. You've got Quarter Bridge. And it's not until you get out down to Union Mills, 3 miles out, that, you know, things start to get warm, start to kind of feel good, and you get settled with the whole situation. So you're quite uptight, and the biggest thing is to try and relax. You're scared you're going to kill the clutch going off the line. There's so many things going through your head, but it's as much a sigh of relief when you get that tap on the shoulder and you can just get off on your own. Yeah,
but that's the bizarre thing about it, because up until that, everything's kind of calm, tranquil, quiet, but then it's not until the engine's revving its nuts off and you're going down that hill that you actually get into where you want to be, your comfort zone. It's such a strange
It is, and
concept.
it's alien, because, you know, I'd come from, of course, I was only raced at 3 TTs, 7, 8 and 9. So not too many races, and it was really that kind of start procedure was alien to what I was used to. I liked elbows and you know, taking it to everybody else, whether that be at mass start road racing or short circuit.
Mm-hmm. Right, let's take it back, all the way back, because your intro into motorcycling, again, we spoke to people in the past. In fact, we spoke to Hutchie a couple of podcasts ago, And he didn't get into it the normal route that you tend to see kids get into it nowadays. He got into it really late. So did you. So prior to getting into racing, what was your history with motorcycling? Did you have any interest in it or not?
All my buddies at school, they were huge into the road racing scene. Grand Prix then, it was 500 Grand Prix. But it wasn't my bag really. You know, it was more ovals, grass track. My father's friends used to collect me outside the house and who used to race. They used to go and clean wheels and fill up with petrol and methanol and just enjoy the whole scene. So when I was 15, I had a dabble at speedway.
Did your dad do speedway then or not?
No, not at all. My dad actually, because we're from Luton originally before we moved to Lincolnshire, and my dad was he did all the development he was part of the development team for Vauxhall when we lived in Luton. So he was into the cars, he was into bikes, but not racing at all. Yeah, there was no racing within the family.
What? So you asked your dad to get his mate to take you to speedway because you were interested in it, or like how did it come about?
Yeah, it's just kind of one of those things that happens because I live on the end of he still lives the same place, on the end of a little village, and the guys used to come up and test their bikes in the fields opposite where we live, so you got to know them and so on, and it kind of just one thing led to another really. So
you wanted to be a speedway rider?
Oh, flipping it, yeah, 100%. You know, and back then I was massively into speedway, followed it hugely. You know, was a huge fan.
How good were you?
Yeah, more natural at speedway than I was road racing.
Really?
Yeah, pretty much. Yep. Funny, really, because I used to when I was 15, I had a 2-valve 500 Jawa, and
what?
It's a 500 Jawa. That's the engine.
Right.
You need some education.
2-stroke, 4-stroke.
4-stroke.
Right.
So 0-60 in 2.8 seconds. Fast things, obviously, and. After school on Wednesday was practice night at Scunthorpe Speedway, which is about an hour's drive from where I live. And it's funny because school finished 3:30, jumped on my push bike, and I had my old Parker on. You probably won't remember this, but you zip up, and because it was spitting with rain, I was thinking flipping it. So got my bike out of the pub car park after getting off the bus to cycle back through the village. Had my head down, flat out, trying to get home as fast as I can. And I just looked up, looking at the little hole in my Parker, and there was a parked car, hit it smack straight in the back. So that was my first night of speedway over before I even got there.
Brilliant. So how far did you take speedway?
I used to do. I did a little bit of a very small bit of racing, but basically couldn't afford it.
Right.
You know, I was still at school. My father couldn't afford it, so packed in, and broke my heart really. But one of those things, yeah. And since then, you know, I used to teach on Pete Bo's flat track school and various other things, and sort of done quite a lot of flat track racing, and been on the podiums and on the finals, and yeah. So
you still got it?
Yeah, I was out last 2 weeks ago at Greenfield.
Flat tracking or speedway?
Flat track.
Because there is a difference, right, or not?
Yeah, there is. Yeah, quite. And flat track's not as fast as speedway.
Right.
You know, in a different bike. It's basically a converted motocross bike. Converted for the ovals, but brilliant. I love it to bits, and it's just, for me, it's just a big fun factor.
So then what happened between stopping speedway and then getting into road racing on short circuits?
Laying bricks.
Laying bricks?
Yeah, I was a brickie for 10 years.
Were you a John McGuinness bricklayer, or were you an actual bricklayer?
No, I was a brickie. No, I didn't read that off flipping television or anything. Watch off with his own pet or anything like that. No, no. I was a brickie for 10 years when I left school. Did an apprenticeship and worked all over the UK really, and good money then. Flipping heck, it was, yeah. And raced stock cars.
Did you?
Yeah, race stock cars in the stadium. Yeah, bangers, hot rods, various things. Yeah, that is the scariest thing I've ever done.
Really?
Really?
Hold on, you've been down Bray Hill.
I know.
Stock cars.
Yep. Mental. Yep. Well, if you can imagine, right? So, and the crazy thing is, so banger racing.
Yeah.
You sat on the grid. You're a newcomer. You've never done it in your life. In a car with a few scaffold poles as a roll cage.
Yeah.
Fuel tank in the boot. Or behind you, like where the back seat should be.
What we're driving?
I think this was a Mark 4 or 5 Cortina, right? So you sat there, and someone's bright idea is you're a newcomer, so you go at the front.
Brilliant.
Right? So you set off,
yeah.
You know, and go slower and then faster and faster and faster. Oh, it's so scary. My first ever lap, I got spun out, and my driver's door was just facing every car coming towards me.
Oh, my God.
Incredible, yeah. I had cars catch fire, and it's just, mate, honestly, it's horrendous.
Was this just to get the buzz of racing because of your speedway experience?
No,
or was it
a
just
good
bit
mate
laugh?
of mine. Well, he lived with us actually. He was British champion a few times.
In stock car?
Yeah.
Is there a British championship for it?
And world.
Really?
You need to get yourself out and about.
I thought it was just a bit of fun where you just try and smash your mates up.
Get out. No. And some of it's full contact, some isn't. It's all
Right,
contact,
okay,
really.
right, yeah.
But yeah, it's anyway. So that was that. That was it was my first kind of input into racing competition to a certain degree. I loved it on one sense, but it scared me on another. So that was that. After leaving school, really, some stock car racing, various other bits and bobs, just the usual things, drinking, shagging, smoking, fighting, just what everybody did when you left school as
not
a
all
youngster.
of us. We didn't all do that. How old are we at this age then? Are we still in your teens, early 20s?
Yeah. Excuse me. I'd have probably, I was probably 18 somewhere there, yeah.
Right.
When I was
But there's no inclination to go and pick up a bike and go short circuit then at this point?
Nothing. No, zero.
Right. So
Zero.
fast forward to that point then. Where are we at then? Because you
Well,
started really late.
Yes, I didn't start till I was 26. I was actually 25 my first race, just before. Yes, I was 25, yeah. It's funny, isn't it? Because I've had that many bangs on the head, I can't remember hardly anything.
You remember everything about me though, don't you?
March the 13th, 1994, that was my first race. Weird, isn't it, how you remember things?
March 94.
So I was building, and the guys I was working with, a car showroom for a company in Hull. And I passed my bike test when I was 17, before my car test, but didn't have a big bike or anything. And I'd only had a 100cc. So we're building this car showroom, and somebody, and the old car showroom was on the other side of the road. A big national, sort of multinational company. And somebody traded in a GS1000 for a car. And so I saw this going on the other side of the road, and I looked over, and so I went to the head salesman. I said, "What are you doing with that bike?" He said, "Oh, we don't deal in bikes at all." So we ain't really got a clue. He said, "Just sort of traded it, and that was it." I said, "Do you want to sell it?" He said, "Yeah, of course." At the time, that was a £2.5 bike. I said, "How much do you want for that?" He said, £750. I said, "I'll have it." so
Nice.
I bought my crash helmet into work the next day, rode it home the next night in the peeing down rain, bolt upright, didn't even lean it over. Like, obviously, my first bike's 1000cc.
Yeah.
How sensible is that? So with that, I rode that for a while, and like most youngsters back then, I was riding around far too fast on the road and getting away with it. Crashed it, sold it, and then I'd been on holiday to Corfu, and I'd seen this GSX-R 1100. Right,
Nice.
so I wasn't into bike anyway at the time, which was the 90s. Early 90s, and I come home, and I had at the time I had an Orion gear injection, which was quite a nice made car, a couple of years old, and couldn't sell it. So I rung every advert in Motorcycle News and spoke to this woman. I said, "Oh, I'm ringing up about the bike sale." She says, "Oh yeah, my husband's in the shower." I said, "Don't get him out." I said, "I don't want to buy it. I want to swap it for a car." She says, "Oh, we're selling it to buy me a car." I said, "Do you like Orion gear injection?" She says, "Yeah." I said, "Right, well, get in his ear then, get him talked into it." So cut a long story short, I met him in Toddington Services on the M1, and did a straight swap in the car park and signed the logbooks. I rode off, he drove off.
Really?
Mate, you'd never do it now, would you?
Bloody now.
Yeah. With my, at the time, my girlfriend on the back.
Amazing.
Yeah. And shot off down there, of course, as usual, shot off down the M1 and just to see how fast I can
Got
go
caught
flat
speeding.
out. No. No, but she had one of those old Alien 2 helmets with a big grill at the front.
Yeah.
And she was a good passenger. And I said to her, "Oh, if you're going too fast, just give me a bit of a nudge." Anyway, we got just going up the road about 100 odd, and she was punching me in the back, and so I was shut off, and then got going again, flat out again, punching me, and I managed to slow down to 100 odd and turn around, and the visor had flipped up all the way back, and her eyes were like this, like two fish bowls. Bless her, God, it's funny. So anyway, that was my introduction to sports bikes, and then
Right.
I very quickly got into following Grand Prix at the time, which were my heroes, Kevin Swans, Wayne Rainey and Mick Doohan, and that kind of era, to booking onto a race school track day, a race school at Cadwell Park.
Whose race school was that?
It was Honda's, actually, where you just turn up and, you paid about 120 quid and you probably only got about 20, 25 laps with all their gear, bike, leathers, helmets and
Right,
everything else.
yeah.
And went with some mates, and all the instructors said, "Oh, you're really good, you should have a go at racing." I'm like, "Yeah, whatever, they're only saying that to flip and get some more money out of
Yeah,
me."
they
So-
said that to me as well.
And what, on your pedaler? And anyway, so I did a track day at the end of that year. That was 1993, and track days were quite new then. And without realising it, this is on my GSXR, without realising it, I was really scared. And you go to a briefing first and get talked to and everything. And I was kind of really nervous about riding because none of my mates had come on this track day. And it was when the YZ F750 just come out. Well, subconsciously, I made sure that all those mouthy ones in the clubhouse, I made sure I found them and beat them on track.
Brilliant.
Weird, isn't it? Weird how.
Yeah.
And then I decided to sell my pride and joy, my road bike, and buy a race bike, and that's how it all kicked off. Yeah.
So what race bike did you buy?
CBR 600 FM. Yeah, quite nice. It's like a 4-year-old bike, and just with no intention in the slightest of doing it for a living or being successful. It was just
so there's no eye on the TT. There's no eye on British Supersport.
Zero.
It's just I want to go and do track days.
Yeah. No, not then, because track days were really new. It was just club racing.
Right. Okay.
So, which was fabulous at the time. A bit of club racing, but it was just going and live in the back of a transit van and get an old caravan and flipping a few beers in the clubhouse at night time and race your Supersport bike next day.
Doing it for the social.
But I won my first race. Yeah.
Oh, did you?
Yeah.
Just drop that in.
So kind of, and it was all not realising how competitive I was myself.
Yeah.
So it was just sort of,
So did you have that competitive edge? Well, clearly not. If you weren't that fussed about racing at Speedway.
Yeah, I did, but I didn't realise how competitive I was.
Right.
So it's just something I hadn't. I won my first race, not my first race, but a race at the first meeting at Cadwell, and then had a really good first year, won a club championship, and then year 2 with still no intention of doing this for a living or anything.
Yeah.
Just a bit of fun. Year 2, I wanted to do like a national championship, move up, but there wasn't one, so I went to British Championship.
In your second year?
Yeah, in my second year, and I think I qualified 25th for the first round at Donington Park of the 600 Super Cup, and by the time I got through to Cadwell round 8, I was pole and getting on the podium.
Really?
Yeah.
So are you still on your CBR 600 at this point? Have you?
Yeah,
I
bought another one, I bought it off the same guy called Mark Ditchfield, who was a good Supersport rider in his day, from Rochdale, and so I bought his old bike, which was a year old basically.
So you're funding this all yourself through your bricklaying still?
Yeah, and a few mates chucking a few quid in, and
oh, nice.
But things were a lot cheaper then, a lot easier.
Yeah. But then it snowballed pretty quickly then. So you've gone from club racing into British Championship.
Yep.
Where are we at? 94, 95, onto 96. So then at what point do you go, oh, I fancy doing TT?
Cool, flipping it. That's fast forward really quickly. Well, I'd also raced the Northwest 200 my second year.
But again, how does that come about? Because unless you've got an eye on it.
I've been to watch the Northwest.
Right.
The year before in 93 as well, which Foggy did a double.
Yeah.
I don't remember when Foggy came on the podcast, I was talking about it. Obviously Foggy come there, he did the double and smashed the lap record and so on. And the atmosphere in Ireland was incredible. So I thought, you know what, I'll have a go at that. So I crashed first year at Northwest. I knew it during the chicane, real slow crash. Just a stupid outbreak myself manoeuvre. So that was my introduction to road racing, really.
But you're still so green to everything there.
Oh yeah, flipping it, yeah.
That's
good times though.
Oh,
it was just on a big holiday, really.
Yeah.
And having fun, and social side as well as the competitive side, and yeah.
But still no ambitions to win. Just
no,
go and have fun.
no real outlook towards the big one, the TT. I knew of the TT then, because a lot of my friends and things had been to watch, and so I'd not even been over. And then things are moving on really quickly for me at British Championship on Supersport, and I very quickly got picked up by Honda to race for them. But they were obviously massive at the TT as well. But I never really had any inkling really for that. I think I was a little bit scared of it.
Yeah, I'm not surprised.
And trusting myself to keep calm and not be a little bit loose there.
Yeah. So in that Honda deal, how does that come about? How far did you get up the ranks of British Championship before they went, who's this guy? What's he doing? We need him.
Well, after my second year and showing, it's funny, I was on the podium at the last round at Brands Hatch of my second year of racing at British Championship on the Supersport. And
so this is the equivalent of what we see in British Superbikes now, the Supersport class, right?
Yeah. And Eddie Roberts and Pirelli spoke to me and kind of asked me what I was doing next year. And Dave Hancock, who was the number 2 at the time behind Bob McMillan at Honda, and they kind of both asked me what I was doing next year. And I was like, well, what's it got to do with you?
Stop being nosy.
So finally, the penny dropped a few days later what they was talking about and stuff. So I gave them a call back, and both of them made contact. And I had 2 free CBR 600s and 50 tyres to play with for the following year.
How did that feel?
Yeah, pretty good. And all of a sudden the penny sort of dropped. Flipping it, maybe there's a future in racing. Maybe I can retire my trowel. I won a British Championship that year, which was like a national championship, the National British Shell Oils Championship it was called. And that was in 1996.
Right.
96, and then I went to ride for a privateer team called Cab Racing alongside somebody else with my sort of sponsors, which was Honda and Dunlop tyres and various things. And then got picked up and was moved and with Honda signed me up and basically paid me a salary to ride for Sanya Honda.
Yeah. So was the salary equivalent to what you were earning to the point where you could look to retire then? Or?
Yeah, pretty much. And it's funny because 3 years after doing that first race school, I was working on that race school, teaching people. And earning some money obviously from Honda, a good salary, and back in those days good sponsors, with leathers, helmets, boots, and so on. So it was weird.
Is there any, because who was it we were talking to who was talking about Matt Roberts, we were talking about imposter syndrome. Did you get a bit of that? Because again, 3 years down the line, you're still relatively new to it, yet you're teaching people how to ride. You must have still been learning yourself.
Hey, you never stop learning. Never. There's always little bits because things change. Development of bikes, of various things. So things always change. But yeah, no, it is. Yeah, it's. But no, I didn't get that feeling.
You felt like you deserved to be there. You knew what you were talking about.
You just wanted to prove yourself.
Yeah.
So I didn't. It's not that you felt alien or on the back foot because you weren't worthy of being there. There was probably one point of that. We'll come to that in a moment. But at the time in British Supersport, and I used to do some wild cards at World Championship as well. You just wanted to beat everybody around you. That was it, really.
Right, yeah.
That was your outlook, and like, not that you deserved to be there, but more the case of you wanted to prove your point and get by them. Yeah.
So you knew those guys you were teaching, you knew you were faster than them.
Oh yeah.
So how did it feel then going and not technically handing your notice in, because I guess you were self-employed?
Yeah, worked for ourselves, but there became a point where I had to stop working, and concentrate on, because I used to drink a lot, used to smoke.
Did you?
Yeah, I smoked 20 fags a day and flipping. Drink most nights, just normal, out socialising, not heavy drinking. But
again, you say normal, Steve.
I was quite a lot heavier, quite plump and flip. So I had to, once I decided to kind of go professional stuff, I had to calm down and start training. But you see, for me, it was lucky because, to a certain extent, because I got that out of my system for 10 years before I raced.
Yeah.
All of that getting out and about and being a bit loose and nutty. And
you brought some professionalism to the sport then. Because who were we again? We were talking to someone, and was it Hutchie?
It was the Hutchie interview, yeah.
When they were all were they all out drinking, and it was you that turned up, and you were not drinking, and you were?
Yeah, he was talking about
training.
Macau, which has always been looked at really as a holiday race at the end of the season, where you can go and you can take your team and say thank you and so on, and the majority, even though they're still quite serious and they want to win on race day, they spend most of the week drinking and having fun, which is great, which is fine. It's a fabulous place, good atmosphere. But for me, I wanted to go and win. I think because I started racing so late, I always felt like time was running out fast.
You were playing catch up.
I wanted to get there and win it.
Yeah.
So I got there and I didn't drink. I did afterwards, because you go to Thailand afterwards,
Got any stories about that?
For a few. Macau is quite a special place. I don't know if anybody that's listening, whether they've ever been. It's a great place. It's a little island just off the side of Hong Kong. Incredible place, great road race. It's at the time then was the last round of the Formula 3 and the World Touring Cars, and obviously the bike race. Incredibly dangerous place. There's no runoff. It's concrete wall one side and Armco the other. Fabulous, but a great party place. I will get to a story in a second. But a great party place. But it's one of those things that, you stay in a hotel, it's probably 60 floors, and the top floor is just, you've got two floors probably separated in a lot of hotels. One's a casino and the other one's a gentleman's floor where you can go and...
You mean a brothel?
Yeah. I suppose so, to a certain degree. So, like, you think, I'll go and have a look. I'll just go and have a look and see what
I've
it's
gone
like.
for the wrong floor.
So
I'm here for the casino.
I'll just sneak in so nobody will really know I've been to have a look. So you go in and you kind of walk through the door a little bit sheepish, and you walk into the reception area, and there's a big reception. And you think, flipping heck. So you pay a few quid, I don't know what it is, let's say 20 quid. They just give you a key for a locker and a towel. So,
right.
So you tiptoe through into the big change room. That's all right, get your kit off. Just put your towel around you, and you walk into this next room, and it's just full of hot tubs. But all your locals, Hong Kong and China and stuff, they go in there and get themselves pampered.
Nice.
A lot of the fellas, so they get themselves shaved and washed.
It's a spa treatment for them.
But so anyway, so you go into these doors and you kind of tiptoe in, thinking, right, okay, you walk into these little doors, and first thing you see is this big hot tub and a big Chinese guy getting himself shaved and sorted out there. Okay, and you look round. I'm not kidding you. It's just like looking across at a British Superbike paddock, and everybody goes, "Hey, where you been?"
I was worried where that was going then.
Yeah.
Oh, bloody hell.
Yeah, someplace. Yeah.
Anyway, let's rewind before we get to that point of Macau, because you're pretty dominant at Macau. But we'll get onto that, because the British Championship kind of interests me a lot because of how quickly you came on the scene, how quickly you started to win on the scene, and then move into the TT. So 1997, you won the British National 600 Championship. And then beyond that, you started. What happened after that?
Yeah, 97 I won that. 98, that's when I signed for Sanyo Honda, which was kind of the leading supersport team at the time for Honda. Well, there are quite a few teams actually. There's V&M, there's a few different teams, but so I won the British Powerbike Championship for them that year on the Honda Fireblade, and was the British Supersport Championship. I finished equal on points in that. I was a tiebreaker, myself and a guy called John Crawford on the Crescent Suzuki.
Yeah, I remember him.
Good lad, good mate of mine. He won the championship on a tiebreaker, equal on points, equal on race wins. He had one more second place than me.
Is that it?
So he felt like he hadn't won it, and I felt like I was robbed.
Yeah.
Anyway, he beat me fair and square the next year. I finished second again, but he did beat me fair and square. So that was that, 99. And then at the end of 99, at the end of the season, I got the chance to go and test at the Bol d'Or 24-hour race at Paul Ricard Circuit for Kawasaki France, factory team. But I had to go and test against Michael Rutter, who was doing Grand Prix that year on a V-twin 500.
Yeah.
And cut a long story short, Michael wasn't riding great. His confidence was down, and I outrode him really.
So it was between you two who'd get the ride?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
So I got the ride, and then I ended up smashing the lap. There was two Kawasaki teams that year. His lot was in one team, and from the UK, obviously, and myself in the other one, and I smashed the lap record.
At Bol d'Or?
Yeah, still stands at Paul Ricard now, yeah. And that kind of set myself up to race superbikes, really. Everybody in the UK especially thought, flipping out, this boy can actually ride a superbike, not just super sport. And that's when things changed gear and moved on up to moving to British superbikes and so on for the year after.
So in terms of endurance racing, you ended up were you there for 10 years racing endurance?
Yeah, 10 years, I rode for Kawasaki France for many, many, many years. That was run by a good Grand Prix rider called Christian Bourgeois, a great bloke. And also Yamaha Austria, Yamaha France, quite a few different teams, yeah. So where's your big passion of mine?
Where's your eyes at the minute? Are you looking, I want to get back into British Championship and go British Superbikes, win the British Superbike Championship,
I was doing both.
Worlds, or?
I was doing both every year, doing it all.
But so there wasn't a point of going, right, I want to concentrate on endurance and win that and dominate, or British Superbikes. You were just like, I'm just going and racing.
Both.
Yeah?
Yeah, pretty much both. Yeah, you wanted to, race and win at British Superbikes.
Because you don't see that nowadays, do you?
I already was winning at World Endurance. You know, I finished second in the championship
but
twice.
It doesn't happen nowadays, does it? You don't really have that crossover.
No, they think they're flipping busy when they're doing a season of BSB now. It's and it is a busy season. That's not because the season's much longer. But my seasons were always road racing, full World Endurance and full British Championship. Yeah,
everything.
Yep. The job a lot, yeah. Obviously, I wasn't. I was underpaid and overworked as always.
Of course, yeah. Of course you were. Of course you were underpaid. I don't believe that for 1 second. You're too smart for that. So there's a massive gap there between 2000 and then 07 making your TT debut. So was it just constantly British Superbikes, World Endurance, British Superbikes, World Endurance.
Yeah, and
you're happy in
Northwest 200 and some
Mhm.
visits to Macau as well. You know, my Macau career started in '98 actually, yeah, but that was with Sanya Honda. But yeah, so dabbling at road racing, but it was all mass start, you know, with Macau, Macau and the Northwest. And then I'd won obviously some British championships and was in and out of Superbikes and had some really good rides and some bad ones, and you know, a lot of injuries, crashes and up and down, and just a normal career really, road racing. Same with everybody, good times and bad times. And it took me a long time to win at the Northwest 200. I'd competed there an awful lot and loved the place. However, I had quite a lot of bad luck. You make your own luck to a certain degree, so some of it was my fault, you know, and you make some bad decisions, ride with some good teams and good bikes, and have bad luck, and some bad teams and bad people, and have some good luck. It's weird. But once I started winning at the Northwest, I won 8. So it was really successful. And then at that time, I was thinking, do you know what, I was kind of half sniffing then. A lot of the teams that I rode for obviously competed the TT as well. And some of them have spoken about it, but I was just too busy as well. Because it's a massive commitment, obviously, to learn the place and then go and ride and race there for 2 weeks of the year. But I very nearly went to the Isle of Man TT in '98 when I was with Sanya Honda, because they were massive there. They had people like Jim Moody riding for them and various other people. But I decided not to go at the last minute. The bikes actually went. Yeah, I had a kind of had an agreement back then with the people that were organising the TT a long time before Paul Phillips and his management team. The deal was to go for no money. They wouldn't offer me any money, so but I didn't want any PR either.
You just wanted to go under the radar.
Yeah. However, they started to push in a big way with TV and magazines and publications. So I said no. I told them to poke it.
I guess you were the hot property back then, though, right? '98.
Yeah, as a youngster coming through, you know, a little bit. You know, a little bit of I suppose, a wild child to a certain degree, riding style-wise. But
mind you, you were 30 then?
Yeah. So kind of just shelved it and never thought about it for a long time. But then after everything that had been going on and was kind of ticking the boxes, British Championships and winning lots of other things, I thought, you know what? That's the one. That's the other discipline I haven't kind of conquered, the time trial and the TT, because it's, you know, the big one. So I was talking with Paul Phillips and was looking towards going in 2006, but it was quite late in the day really. So I decided to leave it until 2007 and go for the centenary.
So why was it late in the day though? Is that just the way it had fallen, or is that
because for me to make an agreement and go somewhere like that, I want to put the homework in.
Yeah.
Learn the place, learn the course, which is a big task when you're so busy anyway. Well, it's a big task to learn without doing anything else.
Yeah.
So because my life was always so busy doing all the other disciplines as well, it was difficult to commit the time to learn and then to prep yourself and to get there and to be competitive.
So had you done any...
And safe.
Have you done any preparation? Because even though I'm never going to race it, I'll sit there and obviously it's a lot easier nowadays with the internet, but you could watch on boards and things like that. Had you done any homework in the slightest to think of learning the basics of the course?
Zero.
Nothing?
Nothing. Before agreeing to go.
Right, okay.
Nothing, no. So it was... and I had in my mind what I wanted to do. To learn. I'm very good and quick at learning courses, circuits, anything, but obviously I've not experienced a 37.7 mile course. Not, you know, it's all right saying you're fast at learning tracks and circuits, but the longest one I've been on was the Northwest 200. So which is 9 miles. So it was a massive task. Well, in my mind it was, and it wasn't really the point of, you know, learning it to try and win. It was to keep myself safe, to know what section was coming next. Because when you're learning the Isle of Man TT course, a lot of sections look the same especially when you're running at 150, 180 mile an hour. So I was very fortunate because running, you know, turn the clock back a little bit, 98 and 99 with Sanya Honda, the team manager was Mick Grant, and Mick kind of oversaw a lot of my career, and he was always there by my side if I needed some questions answering and various things. So he advised me in a big way as well. You know, he's 6 times TT winner as well. So he's been there and done it. You know, so he's good. He was a good guy to have in my corner.
Do you feel like you needed someone like that
It was brilliant. Yeah, it was really good because all the silly little questions, that you need answering was a massive help.
So I guess it's different. We look at newcomers nowadays and we have Barty, we have Milky, and they take them through this rigorous training to make sure they've got it. Then they've got the likes of the TT games. They've also got onboards that they can watch day in, day out over on YouTube. How does that compare to how you had to learn the course? Obviously you had Mick, but how did you do it?
Milky was there when I started learning, but I was probably a little bit. I'd spent a lot of time obviously training on circuits and various not the TT of course, but on other courses and circuits and involved at the Northwest and so on. And I just wanted to do it my own way to a certain degree. So and like I said, it was only to keep myself safe and to learn the sections. And so I used to go over, spent a lot of time going over to the island before the race, before the event.
Why are you laughing there,
pre-event? Oh, because I took she wasn't my wife at the time, but my wife came over with me for one, and was doing lap after lap in the hire car and going round and round, and I was walking sections, doing various things. And anyway, was flying home this time, and this lunchtime, and I said, "Oh, come on, we'll just get a couple of laps in before we go back to the airport." So we got up early, sharpish, off we went, doing a couple of laps, and then we come down to the bottom of Bagara, and we're nothing major, nothing like riding. We're probably doing 80 mile an hour, and just dropped down to the bottom, and there were traffic lights. Just as approaching them, they went to red. I went. If you see her, you ask her. I went through the bottom of Bagara, through these roadworks on red, with cones flying up in the air and traffic lights flying up in the air in my hire car, and just managed to get through before the cars were coming around the lights. Flipping her neck, yeah. And she never lets me forget it now, still. Yeah.
I bet she loves you for that. So that takes us nicely up to your TT debut. So I think now is the perfect point to say thank you, Steve. That's the end of part 1. Join us next week for part 2 when Steve reveals some amazing stories from his TT debut. Isn't that right, Steve?
That's right. Thanks, Matt.
Unbelievable. Make sure you check out all our socials at TT Racers Official.